Hi, friends. Welcome to this latest episode of the Nationalist View. And today on our podcast, we have a very special guest, Mr. Salih Hudayar. Mr. Hudayar, thank you so much for taking time out from your busy schedule.
Thank you for having me.
And Mr. Hudayar is a foreign minister and internal security minister of the East Turkistan Government in Exile. And today we are going to talk about the comprehensive strategic partnership, an agreement signed between Azerbaijan and People's Republic of China, that is Communist China. So, East Turkestan government in exile, they have come out very strongly against this agreement. Mr. Hudayar, what are your objections to this agreement? And what do you find wrong with this agreement, this so-called comprehensive strategic partnership between Azerbaijan and China?
So this is being done as part of China's Belt and Road Initiative, as well as trying to pull other countries under its so-called security framework under the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And of course, in these agreements, one, it's very disturbing and very at the very least, very disturbing to see a Turkic country like Azerbaijan, who has historically, under previous leadership, like Abulfaz Alchibey, had vowed to never engage in any deals with China that undermines the interests of their Turkic brothers in East Turkestan. In fact, their first president, Abulfaz Alchibey, had made it very clear that he would not sell out East Turkestan, and that if anything, he would demand East Turkestan's freedom and independence. However, over the years, as under the current leadership of the Aliyev regime, Azerbaijan has gotten even more deeper in its cooperation with China. And in this new agreement, I mean, this entails cooperation on trade, media, propaganda, communications, and most importantly, security and, of course, intelligence cooperation. And this is what's most harmful to us, is that such cooperations will only embolden China, and it will help to whitewash the ongoing campaign of colonization and genocide and occupation in East Turkestan, but it will also serve to undermine our struggle to restore, to recover our independence and liberty through various means. I mean, this is why we are very, why we condemn this this so-called strategic comprehensive cooperation.
You have specifically talked about the sister city agreement between Nakhchivan and uh, Urumqi. So I hope that I am pronouncing them correctly. Correct me if I am wrong, Mr. Odyar. So what's so specific about especially Urumqi?
Well, Urumqi is the capital of the colonial regime in East Turkestan. If you look at Urumqi today, over 85% of its population, 80 to 85% of its population is Chinese. It's been completely eroded of its Uyghur and other Turkic populations. It's been transformed into a symbol of Chinese colonialism and occupation in East Turkestan. And that's what China wants to do, is to transform all of East Turkestan into, to demographically re-engineer all of East Turkestan into what it becomes like Urumqi, to a Chinese-dominated region where Uyghurs and the native Uyghurs and other Turkic populations are insignificant.
And you have also talked about, raised objections about Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO. So, how does the East Turkestan government in exile look at SCO? If you can speak a little bit about this also. And what are your
Yes.
objections to SC?
So the SCO, or the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, is a so-called security cooperation organization that was actually formed specifically to undermine and prevent East Turkestan's independence movement. So in 1996, in March 16th of 1996, the CCP Politburo Standing Committee, the top seven members of top seven leaders of China, held a top secret meeting on preventing East Turkestan's independence. And so they issued a 10-point series of directives, which called, for increasing military deployments in East Turkestan, increasing the XPCC, which is the paramilitary colonial force in East Turkestan, to engaging in, using China's diplomacy to co-opt foreign governments and suppressing our independence movement, to infiltrating our organizations and controlling them, through co-opted elites. Of course, shortly, what I mean shortly, I'm talking about less than a month later, is when China creates the Shanghai Five Cooperation, the precursor to what becomes the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And the whole purpose of the Shanghai Five Cooperation and the SCO was to fight against these so-called three evils, which is what China claims is separatism, extremism, and terrorism. So separatism in this context means any expressing any idea of that we, or any people in East Turkestan or in Tibet or in southern Mongolia, are separate, have no ties to China, that China views as separatism. Or even expressing the fact that we are different, China views that as separatism. Of course, we are not separatists because historically we were never a part of China. We don't share any cultural, ethnic, religious, historical, or any other ties to China whatsoever. We're not calling for separating Beijing or Nanjing or Shanghai from China. So I just want to make that clear. Extremism, again, for the Chinese, extremism is any, like, even one of the signs of so-called extremism, or the reasons why people are being sent to the concentration camps, is, for example, if you refuse to smoke. If you are a Uyghur man or woman and you refuse to smoke, when the Chinese government minder comes to your house to monitor you, you're an extremist. That's a sign of extremism. If you are frustrated by, a Chinese minder living in your house and constantly monitoring you, that's a sign of extremism. If you're against, you know, uh, giving your daughter, or if you're that woman, if you refuse to marry a Chinese man or accept his proposals, you're an extremist. Having any amount of facial hair, if you're under 65 and you have any amount of facial hair, you're an extremist. All of these things. And then terrorism, China describes it as everything, any type of resistance, whether it's violent or peaceful, as terrorism. Like, for example, our conversation right here that we are having just on this topic, China would describe this as so-called terrorism, simply because it undermines, in China's mindset, it undermines its so-called security. They describe anything that harms, that it believes harms its security, as so-called terrorism. So this was why the SCO was formed originally, under China and Russia's leadership. Over the years, China has become more dominant in the SCO than Russia, and Russia, unfortunately, has become, a second tier player in the SCO.
You have mentioned, in your press release that the Chinese, that millions of Uyghurs, Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, and other Turkic people are imprisoned, enslaved, tortured, raped, and sterilized in concentration camps across East Turkestan, an occupied country and the eastern heartland of the Turkic world, which China falsely calls Xinjiang, which basically means new territory. Uh, if you can elaborate a little bit more on, because most of the people in the world, a large section of people in the world, mostly are unaware about, that about these concentration camps across East Turkestan.
So yes, so in 2013, the Chinese government began to build a series of over 1,400 concentration camps across East Turkestan. And all of these you can find on, there are coordinates available of most of them. You can view it on Google Earth. You can see it being, constructed between 2013 and 2017 across East Turkestan. Initially, as China launched this campaign officially in 2014, in May of 2014, as a so-called People's War. By 2017, they began to mass intern everyone. Again, they sent Chinese officials. They sent 2.2 million Chinese officials to visit our homes, to stay with us an entire week, and to grade us from a scale of 0 to 100. Anyone that scored lower than a 90, it's a loyalty test. Anyone who scored lower than a 90 had to be so-called re-educated in these concentration camps. So in these concentration camps, the U.S. Department of Defense in May 2019 in its report stated that they believe that at least 3 million Uyghurs, Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, and other Turkic peoples had been forcibly interned in China's concentration camps. China still, up till to that point, kept denying the concentration camps even existed. Of course, we responded by exposing over 500 coordinates of these concentration camps, especially the larger ones, and it's undeniable. Anyone can see it, and of course, other leaked Chinese government documents also began to come out around the same time. So it was no point for the Chinese government to continue denying it. They could no longer hide it. So in September 2020, they responded with a white paper claiming that these were so-called vocational training centers, and that in these vocational training centers from 2014 to the end of 2019, they sent 1.29 million people every single year, which is roughly 7.8 million people over the course of some 7 years in two concentration camps, two so-called vocational re-education centers to get vocational training. So they openly admitted that they sent 7.8 million people to concentration camps, though they described it as vocational training. And there's video footage, a few leaked video footage of this, and then they even began to take, select journalists to these camps where everyone is, singing and clapping. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. This is what they taught them in preparation of this foreign media delegation. And there are Uyghurs with bruises on their faces, and they're singing, "If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands." And when the journalist asked these individual vocational trainees, they're looking at their Chinese overseers like, "How do I answer this question? I forgot the answer." This is the type of response. They're even afraid, like most Uyghurs are Muslims, so they're supposed to say "Assalamu alaikum." And when these foreign journalists come and greet them with "Assalamu alaikum," they're like afraid to even utter that, because that itself saying assalamu alaikum was declared as a sign of extremism by the Chinese government. So in these camps, people are subject, they're crowded into, you have 30, 40 people in one, 10 by 15 cell, no beds. They're crowded into this facility, constant beating. You can't even lay down properly to sleep. You barely get 3 meals a day. You get surveilled. You get forcibly medicated. If you even try to groan or even say that this is unfair or refuse to, praise, essentially they're forcing you to worship the state, and deny your religion, your ethnicity, your culture. If you refuse any of that, you get sent into a special room where there's a tiger chair and you're tortured. In the nights, they select the healthiest of them between the ages of 18 to 30, especially among the men, and they take them away for organ harvesting. They kill them for their organs. Women are raped by the security, forces in these facilities. Even men have faced rape and sexual abuse, and this is something that was testified by a former police officer who had served as a guard in one of these camps. The level of atrocities in these camps are unprecedented. Our people are being killed through torture, organ harvesting. Some women are dying because of the mass, gang rapes and sexual assaults that they face. Others are being killed via, tuberculosis, via disease. What many people don't realize is that the Chinese, they conducted, before they rounded up our people, before they had even, started laying out this, they have been conducting tests on our DNA. They've been trying to figure out what all of us share common, trying to figure out what majority of Uyghurs share common, what types of weaknesses, biological weaknesses they had. And so they discovered in 2008, in a medical experiment / study done by the Chinese state, Chinese scientists, biologists, along with, unfortunately, with some support from the US NIH, or the National Institute for Health funding from them. And so they did a study on 1,000 Uyghurs from all across East Turkestan. And they discovered that 736 of those Uyghurs, which they tried to figure out what, weaknesses all of them had the same problem. They had low liver function, liver bile abnormality. So the medication for tuberculosis, it's supposed to cure tuberculosis, because if you catch it. But for those who have low liver functions, it speeds up liver failure. I mean, if you take it once or twice, not a big thing. But if you keep taking it every day, over a course of a couple months, you die from liver failure. And this is how our people are dying in the camps. That's the only type of deaths that China is admitting to, saying that people are dying from tuberculosis. The other types of deaths, the ones that they're executing, the ones that they're killing via organ harvesting, China is denying it. And China is saying that it's doing its best to, give medication to everyone. That everyone in there, because some people have tuberculosis, they're feeding everyone the same medication to prevent the spread of tuberculosis. What they're really doing is causing the rapid decrease of liver function through the so-called treatment of liver tuberculosis, and killing off our people. Because if one person in that crowded camp, if one out of the 40 people, one of them has tuberculosis, with one cough, it's going to spread to all the others. So these are the level of atrocities that are occurring outside the camps. Life is as equally, dire. We live in a open prison, where we're constantly surveilled. Our phones, every phone has a mandatory government app that is installed, and that app monitors everything in that phone. If there is any mention of anything religious, anything ethnic, anything that the Chinese government views as sensitive, if you receive a call or a text from anyone overseas, it automatically notifies the nearest police station to you. If there's anything, again, anything in our own text that the Chinese government views as suspicious, notifies the nearest police station. On top of that, you have tens of thousands of Uyghur women being forcibly married to Chinese men. Essentially, they're trying to breed us out, and on top of this forced sterilization of hundreds of thousands of our women, the Chinese soldiers come, and if they say they want your daughter, you as a man, you're probably most likely already in the concentration camp, but your daughters, your wives might be on the outside. If they refuse, they too are sent to the concentration camp. This is the type of thing. Over 1 million of children have been forcibly separated from their families. For example, if you're in the concentration camp and your wife was also taken to the concentration camp, you have other relatives that the child could go to, but no, the government now declares that child an orphan and takes them and puts them into a state-run boarding school and orphanage, which, if you look at from the satellite imagery and from the videos and photos of the outside of these facilities and the layout of these facilities, it's just a miniature concentration camp for children. Same high walls, barbed wire fencing, security forces preventing anyone from going in and out. And this is where your children have become brainwashed and indoctrinated to not only hate and despise their own identity, culture, but to become so-called loyal Chinese citizens, where they're dressed up in Chinese military uniforms and vow to, pray, to become indoctrinated and made to sing and state that they will become future soldiers of the PLA and that they will defeat China's enemies. And so, who are China's enemies? China's enemies are first and foremost the people of the occupied East Turkestan. Then, when you look at externally, it's countries like India, the United States. This is what they're being prepared for, and so this is a very disturbing thing. But despite that, the international community has, done nothing. The international community, which, put out arrest warrants for Vladimir Putin over the transfer of 25,000 Ukrainian children. Over 1 million Uyghur children have been forcibly transferred away from their families, and Xi Jinping is still able to go to any country that he likes. No mention, no criticism of him on the international level from any government. So this is a big hypocrisy there.
I think what is happening with people of East Turkestan. That's absolutely outrageous, and you have explained it in detail. We'll continue to track the developments on East Turkestan and continue to take the voice of the East Turkestan people through our platform to wherever we can. And I think it's very important for the international community to take notice of the gross human rights violations which are going on there. And also, probably the international community also needs to condemn the uh, strategic partnership between Azerbaijan and China, because it's a threat not only to the East Turkestan, but it's a grave threat to the international community also. So there are larger repercussions of that. And Mr. Udaya, thank you so much for taking time out from your busy schedule. We'll continue to track these developments and bring in the perspective. And if you liked this podcast, please share it, like it, and subscribe to the channel. And we'll be back soon with another discussion on another important topic on geopolitics. Thank you so much once again, Mr. Udaya.
Thank you for having me.